Still is.
I'm Patty Snyder, and I'd like to welcome you to this portion of the series of Food for Thought discussions sponsored by University Presbyterian. I'm the senior pastor at University Presbyterian, and I have the honor of introducing the Chancellor today, and I did prepare to do that. According to the web page of the Chancellor's office, Chancellor Martin's commitment to land-grant universities can be summed up with these values that he shares with such institutions: accessibility, the importance of practical as well as classical education, research that is in the public interest, and connectedness. Clearly, the title of today's remarks, University and Community Partnerships, Loving Our Neighbors, will reflect those commitments and how LSU can and is embodying them. Now, some of you know Chancellor Martin already. Many of you have worked together in a variety of ways. And all of you are certainly capable of going online and reading his bio, so I'm not going to go over it. The bio does, as all do, contain information about his professional and community service, his research, etc., blah, blah, blah. That's not what he said. That's what he just told me. He said that's kind of what it's like. So just let it suffice to say that this native of Minnesota has taken his calling in agriculture, and I use that word calling intentionally, in agriculture, higher education administration, and community service seriously, serving universities and communities in Florida, New Mexico, Minnesota, Oregon, and of course, Louisiana. The Chancellor and I have not met until today, so it's really nice to meet you.
Very lovely to see you too.
Nice to meet you. And so in these circumstances, it's always kind of awkward to introduce somebody that you've really never met before. But in keeping with the theme of connections, I do have a comment that I would like to make. Unfortunately, it is really more like a confession in relationship to your title of Loving Our Neighbors. I am a child of Tallahassee, Florida, and of Florida State. And one of the things that you'll find on the Chancellor's bio is that he was for a number of years at the University of Florida. And I must confess, even though I'm a pastor, I do have difficulty loving those neighbors. But fortunately, now we are neighbors, and we have a shared commitment to LSU and to this community, for which I'm grateful. I know I speak on behalf of University Presbyterian in offering our appreciation for your willingness to be here and to talk with us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Good to see friends and some people that are just meeting. I hope this, well, obviously, I'm going to try to make this very casual. That's why I'm sitting this way. This is not a speech. This is a conversation. And I thought what I'd do is just share a few thoughts about, maybe a few sort of tidbits about LSU right now and why I believe, and I'm absolutely convinced that the community of Louisiana State University believes, that we should be an integral and proactive and open and accessible part of a much larger community, and to find every possible way to serve that community and in turn be served by it, to be the kind of institution we want to be. I think many of you know Brandon Smith. Brandon, if you don't know, is with our Office of Community and University Partnership, the CUP, and Brandon and his colleagues led by Dr. Albert, Patrice Albert, are not the only front door, but a front door or an outreach wing of LSU. And so as I go through any comments, if there's something that of great technical importance that we need to know, or many things I don't, Brandon generally does. So thanks for being here, Brandon. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who moves to Baton Rouge that LSU is a major player in this community in all the obvious ways. We are a major employer, as I think you know. I think as of yesterday, we had 5,113 employees. I tell you that because we are under the last legislative initiative that came out of some of the reform. We have a cap on the total number of employees we can hire, and we are pushing up against that cap. Parenthetically, I think that's a very goofy idea. You'd think you'd want to have the university prosper and hire people as opposed to go the other direction, but right now there's a move within government to make all things public smaller, and this is a move in that direction. But we were at 5,113 yesterday, as I recall. And that's a lot of jobs in this community. We're not the biggest employer, but we're certainly a big employer. So for no other reason, we reverberate across this community just in the number of people that come here every day or in one way or another. work through the auspices of LSU. That's the obvious thing. We also obviously bring 28,000 plus students here every year who participate in the community, both as consumers and citizens and employees. And now, more increasingly, thanks to people like Mary Beth, are engaged in service learning out in the community, and where they serve and advance their own educational experience. We are a major landholder in this community, as you know. There's several hundred, several thousand acres of LSU land in various pieces around this community. And that is part of the ongoing mix of how we make it a better place by using that resource both for our purposes and the larger community purposes. We are, I believe, a magnet for people who want to relocate here. Maybe others feel differently, but I will never not, maybe this is double negative, I'll show you what this is. I shall always, this is a better way to do it, I shall always live in a university community. I believe that there's something special about a community that's home to a university, particularly one that sees itself as part of the community. And I do believe in many ways that are hard to quantify, we enrich this community. Sunday night, over here in the new big theater, we'll hear the acapella choir do some Christmas carols and the like. That's a wonderful part of what we do. The drama programs, the sports programs, the lectures, all the things that come out of a place like this, I believe, make the community a better place to live. And I believe from reading this sort of into the history of LSU, there was a time when many in the community felt like this was kind of a fortress on the little hill. And it was probably built as such because it had gates. I think there are, what, 3 or 4 gates, old traditional gates. And it sort of sent the message, you can only pass through these gates if you are of the washed or the pure or whatever we were. And one of the good things that's happened, and you can feel it and see it, is the symbolism of those gates may still be, but the practicality is that we have made the edges of this institution physically as well as institutionally much fuzzier and much more blended. So, for all of those reasons, we are important. We are, I think, particularly important right at the current moment. We are a source of some stability in an economy that's relatively unstable. One of the conversations we have on campus all the time, and many of the faculty here will probably know that we've had this conversation, is how can you continue to build new buildings when the budget's so bad? And there's a couple reasons for that, one of which is it creates employment in a community that needs it for people in those industries. So we have, I think you know, 3 major construction projects underway, a new business complex at the south end of campus, 156,000 square feet, 48 million. Well, this is the other good news. It was estimated at 48 million, it's actually going to cost 39. Chopin Hall Annex, which I think was estimated at 29, it's going to cost 22. And the new band hall on the north end of the campus, which was originally estimated at 12, is going to cost about 8.5. So 2 good things have come from this. One is we got a much better deal on building, and then in the process we've created some jobs. But the community, in my judgment, is incredibly important to us, and that's why these kind of conversations, I believe, are critical. This institution can only grow and prosper and be as excellent as we can be in partnership with those around us. The community, immediate community, is obvious. This is where our students and our faculty live and work, and having a community in the real sense of a community is critical to making the university function. As I say, our employees live in Old South Baton Rouge, and they live down to the south of this, and then neighborhoods. So this is their community when they're not at work, but it's also a community when they are. And our students clearly benefit from the richness of the culture and the diversity and the history and the unique nature of Baton Rouge as a community. It sets us apart. And as was noted, I've been around a little bit. I started my career in the University of Wisconsin system a long, long time ago. I went to Oregon State for 15 years, back to Minnesota for 6, to Florida for 6, to New Mexico for slightly over 4, and I've been here 2.5. And in each of those places, the university in so many ways was defined by the nature of the community it was in. Well, some of it had to do with obvious stuff, you know. Any Minnesota grads, any Minnesota? Yeah, I've been to the University of Minnesota. They're the Gophers, the Golden Gophers. Well, the entire campus is connected underground by tunnels. I'm serious. Now, there's partly because of the Gophers, the other because it's damn cold. And so the whole campus is set up, and the whole social network of the campus is set up around the tunnel system. And there are underground coffee shops and underground all kinds of stuff to accommodate. So to some extent, there's just the geography and the climatology, but the other is the nature of the community. And I found this to be a fascinating place to be part of the leadership of a university in a community like this one. And I think we know some of the realities. One of it is it's kind of an economically bimodal community. There's some pretty rich people and a lot of not rich people. And we have a real responsibility to interact particularly with those not rich people. In some instances, we have a responsibility to take money from the really rich and see if we can find a way to make the not so rich better off. And we do that. It's a community that desperately needs improvements, in my judgment, in pre-K through 12 education, particularly public education. And I believe we have a fundamental responsibility to be a partner with all those in the local education community to improve the lot of future citizens coming through the school system. I think it's a huge challenge here. I think it's a community that has some fundamental environmental problems. And we need to participate in how we solve those problems so it remains a healthy community in that sense. And for all those reasons, it's a special place to be. Brandon and I, a year ago, spent several Sundays going around to the black churches, visiting black churches in Old South Baton Rouge. And it was fascinating for someone who has not been in this kind of environment to be able to spend even an hour or two there and appreciate what that meant to the sort of the organizational as well as the religious structure of the community. How important those places are for multiple reasons. And the other is how different each was from the other. How they each defined their role in the community and their role with their parishioners differently. And that was great. Brandon knows I kept volunteering to sing in the choirs, and that was never taken up on. A couple of times I was called upon to speak without having known I was going to speak. In one case, I think it was Reverend Smith said, "Well, we'll hear from the Chancellor now." I think, Van Chancellor is here? What a wonderful opportunity, but it turns out it was me. But it was also part of kind of learning about what's going on here. I believe we've got some fairly big challenges ahead of us if we're going to be all we want to be to this community. I do believe that proactively seeking ways to improve the quality of life in Old South Baton Rouge is of an immediate necessity. Without trying to gentrify a long-standing and historically meaningful community, how can we as an institution use our political, economic throw weight to bring services to that community that they might not otherwise get? So we've kicked around all kinds of things. One of the things we've done recently is, in conjunction with the Baton Rouge Police Department, had our police department patrol more deeply into Old South Baton Rouge just to create a greater police presence. That was a request of some citizens, and we said that's pretty easy. Our cars can drive an extra several blocks and be visible along with the others. We've talked about ways in which we might come up with a method to leverage our power to bring a supermarket to Old South Baton Rouge. Are there things we could do to make that appealing to someone who wanted to take the chance to build a supermarket? Could we call it the official LSU Tigers tailgate supermarket? I mean, whatever it takes. Can we do that? Can we bring some better medical care by maybe teaming up with Our Lady of the Lake and some others and putting a larger clinic in Old South Baton Rouge for which we could make a wing of our student health center there, so that it could be a shared population and maybe create a little bit larger business presence. So all those kinds of ideas are out there. And one of the reasons I was pleased that I had now an opportunity to meet with you is I'd like to hear from you what you think we ought to be doing. And what are some of the things LSU can do in this community